Happening now on Grid Tonight. Sprint races, injured riders, and a penalty. Oh my. Should we be concerned by all the injuries suffered during the opening weekend of MotoGP action? Good news and bad news coming from the NTT IndyCar Series. Which one do you want to hear about first? The good news or the bad news? Linus Lundqvist is getting a huge opportunity to test in IndyCar. Can the 2022 Indy Next champion turn this test session into something even bigger, such as an IndyCar race start? Hello to all our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. With me is Joshua Birch and Matt White from Grid Endurance Performance Index. We encourage everyone to comment in the chat below and ask any questions you may have. And now, here's Josh with our top story this evening.
Thank you, Kobe. Hello, Matt. Pleasure to be back all with you as well. So, starting off with our hot topic tonight, as Grid Network discussed over the weekend, Pol Espargaro was injured during practice on Friday at Portimao ahead of MotoGP's first sprint race. There you go. Suffering a pulmonary contusion, jaw fracture, and fractured dorsal vertebrae as well. Now, during Saturday's sprint race, Enea Bastianini was collected by Luca Marini and was taken to hospital with a broken shoulder. Then, in the opening stages of the Grand Prix on Sunday, a clash between Marc Marquez and Miguel Oliveira sent both riders into the gravel. Marquez injured a hand and Oliveira with ligament damage. Now, Jorge Martin was also caught up in the accident, coming away with a broken toe. He too crashed out later on in the Grand Prix as well. This means 4 riders will be missing from this weekend's Argentine Grand Prix at Termas Rio Hondo. 22 down to 18. Pull me out the way. Yeah, actually, I don't mind. I'm basking in his glory. It's all fine. But traveling from the Northern Hemisphere across the Atlantic Ocean to Argentina in the Southern Hemisphere as well, plus 2 sprint races, which equate to 1 Grand Prix race. That's 3 races in 10 days. And the photo here of Pol, courtesy of MotoGP. Matt, a question for the ages. Are sprint races a unnecessary risk? And how concerned are you by the injuries suffered after the opening weekend of MotoGP action? Are the riders' limits being pushed just a bit too much?
Good to have you back, first of all, Josh. It did look like it was an angel and devil kind of thing there. You had Pol on one shoulder, you just needed Aleix on the other side for the Espargaro brothers. What a mad weekend it was. Started with that accident for Pol and get well, so that could have been really nasty. It was quite nasty, but if the bike had followed him in there to the unprotected tyre barrier, which should have had an air fence in front of it and wasn't, that could have been much worse. There was a lot of discussion at the test that the riders had about a week and a half ago at Portimao about the gravel traps and the stones being too big. They were concerned about that. There was some of the gravel traps had grass growing through them where the gravel hadn't been raked properly. So that was also a concern. You could see that in the replays of Pol's accident up there at the top of the hill. Then, as we mentioned, we had another incident with Bastianini in the sprint race. The carnage of the sprint race. I mean, there was dive bomb central, wasn't it, all over the place in the sprint race. You wonder if that's just this was the first one kind of deal. Opening race of the season, maybe a lot more pressure on the riders, being that it was not at Qatar as we would normally see. It was at Portimao, a European start to the season for the first time since 2006. So a different sort of start of the year. And now they've got the long trip to Argentina. Everybody is there ready to go practicing on Friday. But yeah, a lot of riders out with Pol, Bastianini, Marquez and Oliveira, and Jorge Martin, as we also mentioned, they're suffering with a broken toe. So plenty of walking wounded from the first sprint race. It was a hot, fast action. If anyone wants to watch British Superbike, we generally have our sprint race first there on the Saturday, and that's kind of the same, but thankfully we don't have as many injuries going around. So let's hope that was just a one-off thing going into Termas, and I guarantee the riders maybe will, well, you would hope they would get together before the weekend and just have a bit of a let's calm down, guys, because it's going to be ending up with a case of who's left standing to take the grid for the Grand Prix on Sunday if this carries on.
Indeed, 40 races remain this season as well after the opening two. And you mentioned about the gravel there, Matt, as well. That is the normal standard size for gravel traps across FIA and FIM specification. This is from Catalonia, so just across the continent there as well. And it's quite tiny if you think about it. It's not even the width of my finger. And the ones in Portimao are giant stones, so it is quite hard as well. So no wonder Pol Espargaro had the injuries he did, and we wish him a very speedy recovery. Now, Marc Marquez, for his incident with Miguel Oliveira and Jorge Martin, was given a double long lap penalty to be taken at the next race for his involvement in the crash, as I said, with Martin Oliveira on Sunday. But because he had to have surgery on his hand, as he's broken the first metacarpal bone, he will actually miss the race this weekend. That meant the penalty wouldn't be able to be served, meaning he'd go somewhat unpunished. Now, on Tuesday, it was confirmed he would still have to serve the penalty on his return from injury after a rule tweet, literally a tweet from the FIM stewards as well. His Repsol Honda team have today appealed this, and this is what they had to say in the statement. In relation to the sanction imposed by the FIM on Marc Marquez for the race incident that occurred at the Portuguese Grand Prix, the Repsol Honda team considers that the modification of the penalty consisted of a change of criteria on when the penalty should be applied, and that this modification was issued by the FIM 2 days after the initial sanction was final and definitive, is not in line with the current regulations of the FIM for the MotoGP World Championship. For this reason, the Repsol Honda team intends to use all the means and resource offered by the regulations in force to defend its rights and legitimate interests, which it considers violated as a result of the latest resolution adopted, and in particular has duly submitted an appeal before the FIM appeals stewards. Now, what that was all about, because the initial penalty for Marc Marquez stated he would have to serve it at the Argentine Grand Prix. They've since come out and said that he will then serve it at the next Grand Prix he is at, because he's not going to be racing. So I had no clue about the gravel trap size, and now I know. There you go. Yeah, it's about the width of my finger, which I'm not quite there, as you can see. So, Matt, bringing you back in again, does the Repsol Honda team have a valid case to appeal the penalty?
It's madness, isn't it? So after the race on Sunday, they gave Marquez the double long lap penalty. It's basically like a joker lap. If you don't follow MotoGP, there's an extra sort of lane at some point around the course where they would serve a penalty instead of having them ride through pit lane, which would cost them a massive amount of time. The riders go through the penalty loop, and Marc would have had to serve that twice at the next Grand Prix. But of course, if he's going to miss the next Grand Prix because of the hand injury that he's going to have to recover from, he would come back at COTA, which is round 3 in 3 or 4 weeks' time, and that penalty would have been scrubbed. So he would have got away with it as such. And then, as we said there, on yesterday, they've changed the rule, and now Marquez will still have to serve that penalty at COTA, which obviously Repsol Honda are aggrieved at. The appeal is going to be heard at the circuit tomorrow, Thursday, in the morning. So keep your eyes on social media tomorrow if you're watching this live on YouTube and Facebook to see where that lands. I don't know where this is going to land. I kind of feel like they'll have to keep it. Repsol Honda won't like it, but I do feel like this penalty is going to be in there, and it is going to serve as a marker for the rest of the sprint races throughout the season. We've seen Marquez do this kind of thing before, when he's just, the accident that has given him this penalty certainly was his fault. He was completely out of control and clattered into 2 potential race winners for the Grand Prix, along with him taking himself down as well in that leading group. So actually, to to be honest, it did change the trajectory of the race, because then Bagnaia and Vinales were gone up the road and had their own scrap towards the end. But I feel like the penalty will stand, but this is a long line and list of MotoGP, FIM, Dorna, things that have gone wrong over the last 6 to 8 months. They do like to show replays of riders bouncing across gravel tracks before we were even sure if they're okay, which they did do with Pol Espargaro in practice on Friday. More stewarding problems over the last 18 months. This is, I say, a next one in the line. So I do feel like the penalty will be upheld, but maybe going forward there might be a change to how they dish out penalties going forward from Argentina on Saturday and Sunday, and forward for the rest of the season. But I think they have to put a line in the sand under it.
We'll bring you all the latest update news there as well on Saturday's pre-race show, and of course on the practice highlights on JB Motorsports from the weekend as well. Now, Josh has also put some strong words there. They're really going to appeal this. Looks like it. We'll see it tomorrow, and good to see you back, and well, Josh, as well. Thank you, Josh, as well, and I'll see you this weekend for some racing. Hello to Casey Campbell, who says, what's up? Everything's okay. I hope you're doing well too, my friend, as well. So, going on to our next topic as well, leaving the MotoGP world, swapping 2 wheels for 4 wheels. And as Kobe said earlier on, we have both good and bad news coming from the NTT IndyCar Series. But we will start with the good news, and that is that NTT Data has signed a contract extension with IndyCar to continue being the entitlement sponsor of the series. Now, NTT has been the entitlement partner of the IndyCar series since 2019. The new extension goes into effect in 2024. Roger Penske said NTT is an excellent partner across the enterprise with a deep commitment to the sport, and the photo taken by Chris Jones from Penske Entertainment. Bring Kirby back in, as well as Matt as well. How comforting must this news be for the entire IndyCar paddock, with NTT remaining committed to the series for the foreseeable future?
Oh, Josh, I think this is extremely comforting news for the NTT IndyCar series. And we know IndyCar had a lot of high hopes for growth in the series, and in certain aspects, we have seen some great growth, especially in its feeder series on the road to Indy Ladder. So I'm like, oh my goodness, there's so many cars in Indy Next, USF Pro 2000, USF 2000. It's extremely healthy right now in the NTT IndyCar series as well, with over 25 full-time entries. So business couldn't be booming better. Right there. But in certain cases, some of us have wondered, if NTT would show true commitment to IndyCar long term, especially after the Alex Palou drama last year with Chip Ganassi Racing. As many of you know, NTT Data's, they have been a long time sponsor of Chip Ganassi Racing, and the IndyCar's been an entitlement sponsor of IndyCar as well. So some people wondered if the bad press and all of the drama would potentially drive them away, but it seems like that's not the case, and NTT Data is here to stay for the foreseeable future, and that's really, really good for the NTT IndyCar series. I think that they'd be really happy because they've been such a loyal partner, and they're going to be around for a long time. Before we move over to Matt, Amber's asking, what's the bad news? The video game not happening? Amber, all I'll say is stay tuned.
Yeah, that is the good news, isn't it? That you kind of felt like if they hadn't renewed, we'd get into some sort of spiral with title sponsorship, and it bounces around from place to place, like IndyCar was over the last, I guess, 10 years, when we had moving TV networks and all kinds of things all over the place. But this is some good stability for the series, which Roger Penske obviously has brought in. Doing some good things. As Kobe mentioned, the ladder is booming again at the moment, which is great to see. Josh says, nice. NTT IndyCar series is nice and short, snappy. An incredibly long title sponsor. I like it, like the Porsche Carrera Cup Deluxe America, or whatever it's called now, series, or many other championships we will remember from over the past. Nice and short and sedate names for championships is very good. But yeah, good news for them to come back on. I was also, Kobe mentioned the Palou, thing from last year that could have driven them away, but it looks like Roger has turned them round to re-signing, and it's a good little extension for them and for the series.
Yeah, I really can't stand long title names. Like Adam says, good to see you, Josh. Glad you're feeling a lot better, and I've even been hitting the gym as well to stop long COVID effects. Long sponsor names really annoy me. Like every time I have to say "Welcome to the 2023 ABB Formula E World Championship," I get out of breath at the end of it. And the touring cars used to be the Dunlop MSA British Touring Car Championship, and that was a mouthful. Now it's just a quick fit, so it's quite easy. But a long thing there. Adam says, who's ready for the Australian Grand Prix this weekend? Not the UK. Nobody in Europe is ready. I feel sorry for you Americans. You have to get up really early for the races. You are going to see a lot of your Twitter moaning about the fact that the Europeans have to get up early to watch a race as well. But I suppose, Matthew, you're used to it more because you watch the supercars as well, so you might be okay.
Yes, if only we could watch supercars this weekend. That might be my
not.
Tops and knots coming later. That might be my knot.
Good point. Now, Amber, who's in the chat, must be psychic because the bad news is, as we've already said, Motorsport Games announced the new IndyCar video game will not come out later this year as expected. Back in 2021, we were told to expect an IndyCar game in 2023. And in order for Motorsport Games to obtain the exclusive rights, IndyCar had to cut ties with iRacing, which proved to be a highly controversial decision after receiving public backlash. And at the end of the day, IndyCar is stuck in a very tough spot now. No iRacing connection and a video game that may or may not arrive. Matt, does this come as a big surprise to you that the video game deal has fallen flat on its face? And could this be a sign that IndyCar's first game in a very, very long time is still far away from reality?
Yeah, as soon as it was announced, it was, wow, an IndyCar game. We've not had one of them for a while. Excellent. Can't wait to get my hands on that. And now it doesn't appear to be happening. I'd love to have a proper PC and a wheel set up for iRacing. A, I haven't got time. B, I haven't got the space. C, I haven't got the money. I would love that. What a shame that that's gone as well. Will they go crawling back to iRacing? I can't see it. If they do, will iRacing just, see them back out the door again? Real pity that came to an end 6 weeks ago or so, and now this has happened. As we briefly chatted before we went live, there was a British touring car game potentially in the works through Motorsport Games as well, so that appears that may also not be happening. I haven't played the most recent of the NASCAR games, but the reviews have been absolutely atrocious from the sounds of things. So there's been a lot of conjecture about Motorsport Games as an entity ever since they kind of came onto the scene, and this is a long line of bad news stories for them. Ben chiming in, absolute joke. Even if the game does happen, it will likely be marginally better than NASCAR Ignition at best. Throw in the iRacing deal being killed, and it's an all-round mess. Totally agree with Ben on that one. I guess, Kobe, you're on the same train of thought.
Yeah, Matt. This is just super unfortunate to see this happen. I think the last game I played with an IndyCar was on Project Cars 2, because I'll be honest, Project Cars 3, I don't even understand what that was. It wasn't a great it wasn't a great game at all. But Project Cars 2, that's still one of my favorite racing games I play today. Even the IndyCar racing on there, it was okay, better than nothing. But it's so disappointing that it seems like an IndyCar video game is, as Josh said, it's still a very, very long ways away from becoming a reality. I guess we all got our hopes up way, way too soon.
If I could get my arm straight, I would pick the game up of Project Cars 2 to show you that I have that too, but I can't get my arm straight, so I can't do that, unfortunately. Coming into then our third story of the evening as well, and the 2022 IndyCar NXT champion Linus Lundqvist announced that he'll be testing an IndyCar with Ray Hall Letterman Lanigan Racing next week at Texas Motor Speedway after the IndyCar race. Now, Lundqvist has been in the news a lot over the off-season because he didn't have enough funding to graduate to the NTT IndyCar Series. Now, this testing opportunity with RLL opens the door for Lundqvist to take the next step in his racing career. He told Marshall Pruitt from Racer.com that he hopes this test session will lead to something more down the road. Pun intended, I presume. This comes after a report from Swedish media said that RLL was interested in getting Lundqvist in some IndyCar races later in the year. In the photo they're taken by Chris Owens from Penske Entertainment. Second time he's made his way into the program tonight. And there it is. It's the same one I've got, Kobe. Kobe, we must exchange PSN names after the show at some point and get a racing league together. Now, starting with you, actually, Kobe, on this one, how important is it for Lundqvist to maximize this upcoming test session?
Oh, it is super important for Linus Lundqvist to make the most of this opportunity because, this is really the only opportunities he's gotten. And we've been following this story the entire offseason. A lot of people were hoping that Linus Lundqvist, the Indy Next champion, would be able to use that prize money to move up to the NTT IndyCar Series, but he wasn't able to do that, especially, with the funds from 2022 getting slashed. The Penske Entertainment Group hearing backlash from that, and then we also reported on a previous episode of Grid Tonight when they did a better job of spreading out the prize money and bringing it back up to a respectable level in hopes that they can avoid a repeat of the Linus Lundqvist situation. As hard as he worked last year, I'm sure it was extremely disappointing not to graduate to the NTT IndyCar Series. But Linus, he's kept his head in the game. He's been using his connections through networking, working out, attending races. Just trying everything he can to make it into the NTT IndyCar Series because Linus wants this really, really bad. And getting this opportunity with Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, this is incredible for him. He's going to need to go out there on the high bank oval of Texas and just show him what he's got. And if all goes well, maybe we could see Linus Lundqvist make his IndyCar debut at some point later in 2023.
Yeah, big opportunity for him. He came through the sort of system over here in the UK. Was the British Formula 3 champion a couple of 5 years ago, whenever it was. It's the first time I laid my eyes on him, and you could see then that he was going places. Won that championship over, obviously went into the IndyCar ladder and won races and championship there. As you say, Kobe, with the money sort of moving around at the end of last season, and when the music stopped, there was no chairs for Linus to put his bum in. The youth movement continues in the IndyCar series. We've seen all these young guys come in over the last couple of years. I think of Austin Canapino coming across. He's not young, but he's coming from a different background and stuff, and gone well at St. Pete. Looking forward to the race at Texas at the weekend. You'll be able to hear it live on the Ultimate Sports Radio Network with myself and Matthew Owens. 60 days to go until the Indy 500, by the way. The countdown continues. But yeah, looking forward to seeing if Linus can get in, and if he does, how well will he go? I mean, you take one of the team cars at RLL, Christian Lundgaard popped really out of nowhere from Formula 2 into IndyCar last year and done really, really well since he came across. So another fresh pair of hands in the series could really elevate someone like Linus into a good top seat.
Now we've got some comments coming through behind the mic. Hello, Matthew. Says, you can't grow the sport to the younger generation without a game, and thus can't teach kids about the beauty that is the Indianapolis 500. Completely agree with you. My first ever experience with a Formula 1 racing game was F1 97 as well on the PlayStation 1. Fantastic game that stood the test of time. And Adam says, I can remember when... is that Papyrus as well? Had IndyCar computer games. Those were fun. Yeah, I remember playing one of those actually on an emulator as well, just to get the experience of it. And did someone say Indianapolis? Yes, you said Indianapolis. You. And Matthew said it as well, actually. Matt, you said it about coming up with 60 days to go. Is it really 60 days to go?
That's what the Oracle, Mr. Owens, has told me today. It's 60 days to go.
You remember, you see these eyes, the dread. that means we're only like something like 70 days away from Le Mans, and that's like a terror for me as well.
We've still got Texas, Long Beach, Barber, the road course, all of the in the month of May stuff to get in before we get to the 500. Busy time for IndyCar over the next 60 days.
And we also have 1 month away from the I guess what they call the open test at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So it's the month of May is coming really fast.
It just puts a smile on your face, doesn't it? It's brilliant. I love the month of May. It's so fantastic. Cars at top speed down the straights, brilliant. Who can take the most of the corners? Who's not going to hit the wall? Oh, just bring it on. Can't wait to cover all the sessions live this year. Right, now, we were talking about Rahal Lenham Lanigan Racing, if I get my words out. Jack Harvey has been cleared to compete at Texas after being involved in that crash at St. Pete. Now, last year, Harvey crashed in practice and didn't race at Texas. And over the offseason, we've said that Harvey would be under lots of pressure to perform this season, especially after he was sent over to the number 30 Honda, with Christian Lundgaard replacing him in the number 45 Honda, sponsored by the Hy-Vee guys over there. Now, Lundqvist, a young talented prospect, as you've been saying, Matt, as well, getting a test with the team. Could Lundqvist new affiliation with RLL serve like a motivator for Harvey to bring out the best in him?
Yeah, maybe. And another comment from Matthew Owens there about getting a race in between this 4-week gap we've had there. IndyCar people were at Termas de Rio Honda a couple of weeks ago, where MotoGP will be this weekend. So we may have a South American race back on the calendar soon. Jack Harvey, though, yes. It's been a treacherous kind of year and a half for Jack, hasn't it? He's just had no luck whatsoever. I'm not sure how many ladders he's walked under or black cats he's come across recently, but they seem to be following him around. And again, that incident at St. Pete was really none of his own doing. And he gets wiped out and gets a bump on the back of the head and in the back for it too, when he was ridden over while sat in the tyre barrier. So he, unfortunately, another guy that came up for the GP3 and GP2 back in the day over on the F1 side, switched his allegiances to America, got himself into IndyCar, got there and was one of those guys, oh wow, who's this? And he was doing so well and gets himself a full-time ride, and kind of it's just sort of plateaued and gone downhill ever so slightly ever since. And it's a real shame, because he's a guy with some immense talent. Will certainly find himself into a fairly decent sports car team, you can be sure, and maybe IMSA or something like that, if it does come to an end in IndyCar. But he does need a turn of fortune. And as you say, he didn't race at Texas last year, was subbed by Santino Ferrucci from memory. And that kind of opened the doors to him to get his 500 run in May. So hopefully Jack can have a good weekend this weekend and keep the injuries at bay and get rid of some of that bad luck that he's had over the last little while.
Yes, for sure. Jack Harvey definitely needs to have a great weekend in the Lone Star State at Texas Motor Speedway. Before I get a little bit more into my answer, going to catch up on a few more comments in the chat room. Adam Limmery says that IndyCar needs to go back to Australia. Totally agree with that. Would love to see IndyCars back at Surfers Paradise. That would be fantastic. And Josh is getting very excited about that. Oh yeah. No. I forgot start times in the UK, but but I'm up at that hour anyway, so it's not really a problem for me. I cover supercars. I stay up late watching those races. So whenever Formula One goes to Australia, Las Vegas is going to be at 1 a.m. too, and then also the Japanese Grand Prix is pretty early in the morning for us. So hey, I can stay up really late and watch those. So there's no problem at all there.
You won't see me in October.
Yeah, and Josh T says that 59 days. 19 hours, 15 minutes exactly until the Indy 500. Not long now. Wow, that's very precise. I'm quite impressed by that, Josh. But getting back to the question of Linus Lundqvist coming in here, I think it could definitely serve as a great motivator for Jack Harvey to continue to improve as a driver and do his best, because right now, as Matt mentioned, Harvey is having a really tough time, and it's really crazy. He hasn't been at Rahal Letterman Lanigan racing long, but things have not been going well when you look where his teammates were last season. Graham Rahal and Christian Lundgaard, throughout the course of the season, they were remarkably better than anything Jack was able to do in 2022. And for this year to start off, with that scary crash at St. Pete, is not, it's just super unfortunate to see that happen. But we know what Jack Harvey is certainly capable of, and he's gonna have to rediscover that old form we saw when he was performing extremely well in that number 60 Myers Shank race in Honda on the IMS road course, the race that many of us thought he might actually win. So we know what Jack is capable of. It just hasn't worked with RLL so far, and we'll have to see if this partnership is going to work. Sometimes when drivers switch to new teams, it's just not a good match, and you need to move on and all of that. And it also just goes to show, I've made this point multiple times on our program. Jack hasn't been at this program long, but in today's sports age, it's what have you done for me lately? They don't give you time to get used to the new team. They don't give you time to really find your foot. And if you're not performing, they're gonna look at the next hot shoe out there, and that next hot shoe could very well be Linus Lundqvist. And already over the offseason with Jack Harvey being sent out of the 45 into the 30 with Lundgaard in that Hy-V car, that's already shows that maybe someone doesn't have as much confidence in him as he'd hope.
Absolutely, and we've always been saying, but we'll keep an eye on what Jack does this year, and we will continue to do so. And also, we'll have him on the wrap-up as well, talking about how he's been going at his first race at Texas in a long, long while. Now, here's Matt White with the latest from the Grid EPI update.
Yeah, before we get into that, quickly mention while we're talking IndyCar, don't forget to check out our Callum Eilert interview, which is on the YouTube channel. And also, while we're talking about IndyCar going places, a certain track just up the M1 from me that would be very welcome to see IndyCar at, and it's not Silverstone, Donington Park. Would love to see an IndyCar race on the full track at Donington. EPI then, 2 weeks to go before we announced the first top 10 of the year, and last week we had the 12 hours of Mugello, the first European round of the Creventic Hankook 24H series, 6 hours on Saturday, field frozen overnight, and then 6 hours on Sunday. There was a win for Haas. No, not that one. This was a different Haas, but the Audi team from Angola with Fred Vavish, their lead pilot, Audi factory driver. They got the win at Mugello over the weekend, along with Maciej Jetre and Stefan Perrin getting the win in that one. The Heart of Racing team were in action. Ian James and Roman DeAngelis amongst the driver lineup. They were in the Pro-Am category and got I think, 5th place finish off the top of my head from memory. This weekend, we've got the next round of the Nürburgring Landstrecke Series. It's NLS2. The entry list has come out for that today. 30 cars on the list for the next round of NLS this coming weekend on Saturday afternoon. Check that out. That's on their YouTube channel for free. So if you're hankering for some endurance sports car action, especially with a lot of GT3 cars in the top class SP9, then you can check that out on Saturday. So we've got that one. That will probably shape the top 10 for a couple of weeks to come, because we'll have it out exclusively on this show in this slot in 2 weeks, the first Endurance Performance Index top 10 of the year after Easter, which on Easter weekend we've got the first races of the GT World Challenge Australia Championship at Bathurst. So after that, we'll have our first top 10 that will be shaped by this NLS race coming up at the weekend. We'll bring you the results of that in this slot next week, and then in 2 weeks' time, the first EPI top 10 of 2023. Excited to see who is going to be in the top 10 going forward. And that comes out just before WEC at Portimao and IMSA at Long Beach. So we'll have a top 10, then it will probably get completely shaken up again with those races happening the weekend after. So looking forward to getting into the proper EPI standings, and we'll give you the updated scores and stats as we always do in this slot over the next few weeks.
And next, more motorsports news from around the world. Three-time Repco Supercars champion Shane Van Gisbergen will return to rally competition later this year. SVG will compete in 4 races in the Rally New Zealand Championship. Last year, he got a podium in the Australian Rally Championship and another podium in the World Rally Championship WRC2 class. In last year's Repco New Zealand Rally, SVG will drive this Audi AP4 alongside Glenn Westside, car owned by Dylan Turner and sponsored by LJ Hooker and Giltrap Group. Van Gisbergen's first rally of the year will be the International Rally of Wengray in May, including the final 3 additional races at Bay of Plenty and 2 locations that'll be announced at a later date. Photo courtesy of SVG. Big Machine Label Group CEO and owner of Big Machine Racing, Scott Borchetta, was involved in an accident on Sunday in a Trans Am race at Michelin Raceway Road, Atlanta. He was taken to the hospital to assess his injuries, and at the last update, it was reported that he was in stable condition. Everyone is asked to be respectful of the Borchetta family's privacy at this time. And this statement right here from Trans Am, they said on behalf of the entire Trans Am staff and management, we want to wish Scott Borchetta a speedy recovery. Scott is a passionate and talented competitor, and his dedication to Trans Am is evidenced by his participation as a team owner, driver, and partner. The safety of our drivers, teams, and at-track personnel is our number one priority. We are deeply thankful to the safety and medical crews at the racetrack, as well as those at the local hospital who have provided excellent care. So definitely wishing the best there for Scott Borchetta. Josh Williams is set to return to the NASCAR Xfinity Series this weekend at Richmond Raceway after serving his one race suspension. However, celebrating his return to the number 92 DGM Racing Chevrolet Camaro, Williams is inviting NASCAR fans to come to Richmond this weekend using the $92 Josh Williams ticket bundle. With this deal, you can get one ticket to the Xfinity race, one to the Cup race, including an $11 donation to the Ryan Seacrest Foundation. Ironically, after getting suspended for parking his car, Williams has a new sponsor now, Systems. Porsche Penske Motorsport completed its Le Mans hypercar driver lineup for this year's 24 Hours of Le Mans. As previously announced, Dane Cameron, Michael Christensen, and Frederick Makuwicki will drive the number 5 Porsche 963 LMDH. In the number 6 is Kevin Estre, Lawrence Van Thor, and Andre Lauder. Now joining Felipe Nasr in the number 75 Porsche from IMSA, Nick Tandy and Matthew Jomine complete the Porsche factory prototype lineup, and Matt Campbell will be the reserve driver. And this afternoon, we learned that the National Motorsports Appeal Panel have amended the L2 level penalties against Hendrick Motorsports. The owner's points, driver's points, and playoff points taken away from the number 5, 9, 24, and 48 have been reversed. So Kyle Larson, William Byron, and Alex Bowman will move up higher in the driver's standings, plus to number 9 in the owner's standings. Bowman is now the overall points leader, Byron third, and Larson is ninth. However, the $100,000 fine for each Hendrick Motorsports team and the 4-race suspension for crew chiefs Cliff Daniels, Alan Gustafson, Rudy Fugel, and Blake Harris will stand. In this statement right here from NASCAR, they said, "We're pleased that the National Motorsports Appeal Panel agreed that Hendrick Motorsport violated the rulebook. However, we are disappointed that the entirety of the penalty was not upheld. A points penalty is a strong detriment that is necessary to govern the garage following rulebook violations, and we believe that it was an important part of the penalty in this case. And moving forward, we will continue to inspect and officiate the NASCAR garage at the highest level of scrutiny to ensure a fair and level playing field for our fans and the entire garage." Additionally, Daniel Suarez received a $50,000 fine for the incident entering pit road after the race at COTA when he pushed Trackhouse Racing teammate Ross Chastain out of the way to hit the back bumper at Alex Bowman a couple of times.
Yeah, some late breaking news there just before we went on air from the NASCAR side of things, heading to Richmond this weekend. It is part of Pick a Winner. You can get those in using the hashtag Pick a Winner on Twitter before the green flag on Sunday. Big weekend of Pick a Winner with Formula One, IndyCar, MotoGP, NASCAR, and which we're going to do right now, supercars, because as I mentioned earlier on, we've got a race in 7 or 8 hours time. The first race of the weekend at Albert Park is the closing track activity on the Thursday of the 4-day weekend in Melbourne. They've got a race each day as part of the Grand Prix support panel. The highest scoring point weekend of the season for the championship. Could it be the highest point scoring weekend of Pick a Winner as well? Potentially, yes. So let's have a look. There's Ed, still top of the box, but he's being caught. Look, Kobe's now 1 point behind him. Myself and Josh T on 6 as well. So we're starting to get reel in Ed there at the top of the Pick a Winner standing. Get your votes in for who you think will win the races over the weekend on social media, and you can get yourself on the leaderboard with a correct answer. So then, guys, we've got supercars to pick from. We're going to do the Thursday, Friday, and Saturday races here now, so that they're clearing out of the way before we get on back on the air with you guys over the weekend. I will start off. I've already put mine on Twitter, so I can't change my mind now because it's written in stone. So I'm going to go Chaz Mostert for race 1, Cam Waters for race 2, and SVG for race 3. And I think I had Mostert down for race 4 as well, so double Mostert. But he, I think, is going to come out swinging. He's got a couple of wins at Albert Park previously, so I think the championship leader will win the first race, which, as I say, is about 8 hours away or so as we go out live.
Yeah, quite an unusual schedule this weekend for supercars compared to what we're used to. But hey, when it comes to the Grand Prix race at Albert Park, you have to do what you can in trying to fit in the Formula One schedule. And this year is even more action packed with Formula 2 and Formula 3 heading down there as well. So the supercars have a really tight schedule, and that's why we're going to be doing the first 3 races, and then on Saturday Grid Live pre-race you can do the 4th and final race of this race weekend. And I haven't seen enough parity wise yet after Newcastle. This is gonna seem so easy, but I'm gonna go with Shane Van Gisbergen, Shane Van Gisbergen, and Shane Van Gisbergen until otherwise. So stay tuned.
Oh, just doing some standing up cat naps as well. Now, I'm going to go SVG for 3 and 4, and then I was actually going to go for Chad in race 5 because I think that's where, third race of the weekend. That's when everyone's going to start getting the qualifying formats get changed around as well with the results from the races and the grids, and they all get changed around. So I think we're going to see a difference there on Friday evening as well. But Zero Cup Drives Expedition Trucks this weekend. I can't put my arms up. Can we just take this as like my cheering? And Ed says as well, have to say in the intro, I felt like Joshua was about to do a MotoGP version of Injury Lawyers for You. Have you been involved in an accident that wasn't your fault? Call Marc Marquez's bank at 147 something like that. As well, yeah, because I think they'll just bail you out. But I'm fascinated the fact that Marc hasn't come down to Argentina to do a couple of laps in the main race, serve it, and then go away as well. If you aim at the king, you better not miss. Eddie, this is getting to his head now as well. He was saying in the commentary in Formula E as well, it's getting to his head that he's pick a winner at leader at the moment after some lucky picks at the start of the year. But now it's starting to become a little bit more, we can all catch up. Kobe might just go for the crown once again. Can I lock in my Formula One pick a winner this early? I know it's Wednesday, the weekend isn't even on. Max Verstappen will win. There you go. Yeah. I mean, I can't see. Just give you a quick rundown of what I've been told. Perez has been told he's not allowed to challenge. Ferrari are nowhere. Mercedes have got a car that's more useless than a lawnmower without any blades. And no one else is anywhere near. So it's going to be Verstappen. Unless Fernando Alonso soups up qualifying in the wet weather and does it. But I can't see it because we're going to have a wet practice, a very wet qualifying, and a dry race. And to me, that suits the Red Bull across all of them. So it's going to be fun. But it'll be Max Verstappen pole, lead every lap and win. And we'll all waste getting up early in the morning. So, yay. Unless
Max does a bin job in qualifying and has to start down the back somewhere, then he's probably going to end up on the front-ish and run away with things.
He did that in Saudi Arabia and he still ended up second.
Yeah, very good point. Time then, before we head on out of here, for hots and nots from the weekend. And I will come to you, Josh, because you missed out on putting us in last week as you were COVID bedridden. So we'll go with hots. What is your hot from last weekend?
Hot from last weekend actually was the MotoGP sprint. I quite enjoyed commentating on that. I thought it was a better race than on Sunday. I'd still take the Sunday race, don't get me wrong, but I thought that sprint race was a good idea and it's a good launching point. If we had that at Qatar, I don't think it would have worked. Portimao is a very fast roller coaster track. It gives you pack racing. We even saw it in the Moto 2 at the front. You're able to follow a little bit more in groups. So I thought that was quite good. I'm interested to see, however, and I did say this in commentary, I'm holding judgment on the sprints, whether I like them or not, until this weekend in Terminus, because I think that's going to be the make or break. It's a dirty track. The FIM even sent out a message saying, I apologize for the way the track is and the conditions. So I think in the sprint, we're going to see one racing line. So I'm holding my breath on that. But for hot, definitely the Portimao sprint race gave us a lot of action, a lot of pack racing. And I feel like Sunday would have been closer to the same if it wasn't for Marc Marquez deciding he was a pinball wizard into turn 4.
Yeah, what a shame. Poor old Moto 3 are going to get that Friday FP1 and just, have the road sweepers out, unfortunately, for those guys on Friday. Kobe, what is your hot from this weekend just gone?
And before I get into the hot, gonna catch up on the chat room. You got Adam Limmer is gonna be picking Shane Van Gisbergen for race 1, and he's also picking Shane for race 2, race 3, and race 4 as well. and Amber has the same idea. Shane, and and
It's time to cotton on.
Yeah, and Ed Hunter says so as long as the Triple A's don't get disqualified again, it should be SVG, and we have Casey Campbell sharing all of his. He said for F1 Max Verstappen, Joseph Newgarden in IndyCar at Texas, Denny Hamlin for NASCAR at Richmond, SVG in the first 3 races of the weekend for MotoGP. Got Pecco Bagnaia. Ben Snyder says Max Verstappen, Scott Dix, and Pecco Bagnaia sweeping the weekend again. Shane Van Gisbergen won all 4, and Denny Hamlin as well for Martinsville, and got some fun comments there from Josh T and gloating.
I'm really not.
Yeah, and Adam Limmery says what his hot is good NASCAR race at Coda, and his not is can't see SVG compete in Albert Park. Yeah, Adam, that's really frustrating, given the media rights that Formula One have that's exclusive, that none of us in the international community can watch the supercars this weekend at the Grand Prix, which is extremely frustrating. But answering your question, Matt, what my hot is, I got to give a call to Jensen Button for a top 20 in his NASCAR Cup Series debut, considering the fact he's never done anything like this before. And especially at the end of the race, as Calvin Fish liked to say, a whole bunch of argy-bargy, a lot of drivers run into each other. You had to be up on the wheel for Jensen to come away with that, with a top 20 finish and survive. I was reading before coming on the show that Jensen actually was suffering from heat exhaustion, and he was thinking about actually coming to retire from the race because he didn't know he could make it to the end. So for him to power through in the Texas heat and to get a top 20 on debut, I think Jensen has to be very excited how his first NASCAR Cup Series race went. So that's my hot for the week.
Yeah, his cool suit failed towards the end there for Jensen. He's been a busy boy. He's in Shanghai at the moment. I saw some tweets from him at a Lotus event at the Shanghai Grand Prix circuit today. So
is he?
He's on his way to Albert Park, I would guess, but he's in China today. So busy boy Jensen. I didn't pick SVG to go sweep the weekend just to be different because Albert Park. I just wanted to mix it up a little bit. Casey says Miles Rowe hot. Yes, he was at the weekend at Sebring, and not injuries from MotoGP. My hot. Staying at COTA is Tyler Reddick. He is the new road course king, isn't he? We're not talking about it because I don't know why. Because Chase Elliott won those races on the spin a couple of years ago, and suddenly he was the new road course king. Reddick was absolutely insane on Sunday. Even out of the different strategy, he could still get back up there. And if it wasn't for Brad Keselowski's breakdown and being shooing mess, he probably could have lost that race quite easily towards the end. But he's my hot. As was Kurt Busch, because that was just cool to have Kurt up there in the commentary box to get to see the car that he probably still should be in, really, end up winning the race. So that was my hot. Not much hot from COTA, apart from the weather, but Tyler Reddick's performance certainly was. Let's switch it to knots then. Josh, we'll come back to you for your knot from the weekend.
I think my knot has to be the fact that the MotoGP session, the formats still don't work. In terms of the fact that free practice is now irrelevant on Saturday. But do you want to know what my biggest knot is? It's BT Sport for their abysmal coverage of MotoGP over the weekend, and it really infuriated me. World Feed, produced by Dorna, costs £159 a year. As a UK customer, you pay £21 to £28 per month, which adds up to a lot more at the end of the year for BT. And you ended up with all the practice sessions being covered by the World Feed. It was a shocking piece of coverage. Friday was very hard to follow because they kept coming in and out with ad breaks just before the start of the sessions. Saturday, instead of showing the final free practice live on a main BT channel, they hid it away behind a red button service as well on a channel that isn't there. And it was an absolute mess. And Eddie also say, Eurosport cut into an ad break accidentally in the middle of the race in Sao Paulo. Yeah, me and Ed were commentating on Eurosport because we thought, well, it's the only way we can watch it live in the UK on a TV channel. And we thought, they never have any ad breaks. Someone lent on the Vision Mixer and sent it to ad breaks for 3 laps. And so much happened those 3 laps. Me and Ed were like this with our phones going like, this is incredible, but we don't know what we're watching. So that was a bad, but yeah, in fairness, BT Sports' horrible coverage from that weekend was my big knot. I don't know if it's changed yet. I really hope it has.
Yeah, we'll have to see how they roll out at the weekend. Amber says, hot, the NASCAR race at Kota, tons of fun and more overtimes. Not Jimmy Johnson. Yeah, he didn't even make it to the end of the first lap before he was wiped out with damage at the second to last corner. Kobe, what is your not? Yeah, well, indeed. Kobe, you're not?
Yeah, I have to agree with Casey on this one. My nod has to be the injuries from MotoGP. You never want to see riders getting injured like that. And going back to the concerns about extra MotoGP races this season, I'm wondering if the wear and tears, just on those riders' bodies are going to really start to take shape the deeper we get into the season. I understand your perspective, Josh. You want to wait and see how the sprint races go, but right now, I'm like seriously concerned about all of those riders that their bodies are going to be taken. When you get wear and tear in your bodies, then it's a lot easier for you to suffer injuries. And right now, we're down 4 riders. Do we want to be down 5, 6, 7, 8, or even more? That's something you just don't want to see. So hopefully what we saw this weekend in Portugal was just a one-off, and it's not going to be the theme of this year's MotoGP season.
Before I throw to you, Matt, sorry, I mentioned to my mum, we were in the car on Monday, and she knew about Marc Marquez's accident, and I got the notification, Marc Marquez to miss the Argentine Grand Prix. And my mum said, oh, for God's sake, really? He's only just got back. And I think that's the thing. It's like, it's just injury upon injury. So I do agree with you, Kobe. The fatigue of the riders is going to be a big, big thing this year, especially when we get to the back-to-back races at the very end of the year with Thailand, Australia, Malaysia, Japan. Those races, they're going to be the riders feel it, I think.
Yeah, we're going to have guys from British Superbike and German Superbike and World Superbike just rocking up at the track with my helmet. Hi guys, anyone need a rider? I'm here. I've got my license and I've got my lid. My knot was going to be MotoGP, but as Kobe took it and we talked about it earlier, I was kind of scrambling for another knot. I guess it kind of has to be the fact that it took over an hour to do 12 laps of the Circuit of the Americas at the end of the Cup race on Sunday. It was all going swimmingly well until Brad Keselowski broke down, and then the ensuing carnage after that. And also, I hear, and this wasn't picked up on the TV, but I hear from listening to some podcasts today that the caution that came out for Austin Dillon having a flat tyre was not actually for Austin Dillon having a flat tyre. It was for Ross Chastain parked, waiting for the caution to come out before he could then catch back up with the field. And then he ended up with a top 5 finish. So the actual race report was because the number 1 car was parked at turn 1 and not because Austin Dillon was dropping tyre debris most of the way around Texas. So, yeah,
surely that's a wrong-way span.
Oh, well, maybe. You can't park there, Ross. I guess just the road courses. We saw that Indianapolis the last couple of years on the road course, and not so much at Kota last year. Wasn't so bad, apart from the pinball at the end, which then ended Ross getting the win. But it doesn't happen at Watkins Glen. Why can't it not happen anywhere else? So my not being the end of the Cup race. Thankfully, they're back on an oval this week at Richmond.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, just want to ask you one quick question, just a yes or no. Was it nice not having stages and just a straight run to the end? Yes or no?
I kind of liked it. It was a bit odd that the end of stage 1 happened as they were going back to green under the yellow. If that happens again, there's going to be people doing silly things on restarts to get stage points. Guarantee you that happens again later on in the year. But yeah, it was a cool new thing. I think it worked out better in the other 2 races on the Saturday, which I've not seen yet. But yeah, we had plenty of a yellow fever towards the end to make up for the non-stage breaks.
I suppose that was good. Go on, Kevin.
Oh yeah, it was definitely really refreshing. Like Matt said, it was kind of weird, when the race stayed green after because we're so used to the stage break, and for all of us riders out there, the stage break caution has also been nice to know where I can finish my recap of stage 1, I can finish my recap of stage 2, and I can get ready for stage 3. But now with the road course, it's like, oh, I have to watch this, and I have to continue typing what's going on at the same time instead of getting that break to get caught up on everything. Yeah, so it certainly took a moment to get used to again, because that's the way things used to be. Well, we didn't have stages before, but since stage racing was introduced, we're so used to all these stage cautions coming out. It felt like I guess a glimpse in the past. It like it's a weird feeling, but it was a good weird feeling, if that makes sense.
I get what you mean. Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same. It's a good, weird feeling. I like what they're doing. I like how they're changing up the format a little bit as well. So it's not just same old, same old. So thumbs up for me. I like that. And let's hope they have some good things in the future on that. Now, that was hilarious, but such a nightmare at the same time. Not sure what that was referring to from Josh.
Just the end of the race at Kota.
I see. Yeah. It was a crazy end, yeah. Sorry, brain's gone a bit foggy now. But taking a look at our upcoming schedule as well. Friday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern, Women in Motorsports will be on once more as well. Saturday at noon Eastern, the Grid Live pre-race show. And also look back at a couple of other supercars races at that time. The FE ads, I see, yes. Sunday, the Grid Live wrap-up will be 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Richmond Raceway. Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, Grid Live Encore, recapping trucks at Texas, Xfinity at Richmond, Formula 2 and Formula 3 at Melbourne, and many more, including the Moto 2 and Moto 3 in Argentina. Going to be very busy. Sorry, Ben, you might not get to talk more much on Monday. So please do subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you for helping us reach our milestone of 500 subscribers. Now let's see if we can reach our new ambitious goal of 1,000 subscribers before the Indy 500 on May 28th. As we said, 59 days away now as well. Now, at the moment, we're less than 10 subscribers away from hitting 600. So tell your friends about Grid Network and get them to subscribe as well. And don't forget to hit the bell notification icons as well, and you'll be informed every single time we post a video and go live. And don't forget to follow all our social media platforms and visit gridranking.com. Now, take 5 minutes to invest in the Grid Network through Patreon. Join Colin, Mark, Deshelle, Robin, and David in investing each month in Grid Network. And we encourage you to join the amazing group of people who keep us on the air. And once we hit $500 per month, we can start expanding our coverage, adding new members to the team, and increased Grid Network presence on site, covering the races from the track and more content. The link for that is in the video description. And if you want to do a one-time donation, click on the Buy Me a Coffee link, get your name on the board, and invest as much as you want. And consider also buying a specific on-air personality a cup of coffee, and they'll thank you on the air. For Kobe Lambeth at the podium finish and Matt White from Grid EPI, I'm Joshua Birch. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching us right here on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and check out some of our other videos, including Life on the Grid, where we interview folks from the motorsports industry. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.